99ers get an employment extension bill reintroduced, no Republican support. Commentary: the government finally put a number on the long-term unemployed that are benefits last month. The official number stands at 1.4 million individuals. These jobless workers, the so-called 99ers, have in many cases been without work for nearly 2 years. Some have been unemployed for over 2 years, and their number is growing. In fact, it was to curtail this increasing flood of 99ers somewhat that prompted Representative Barbara Lee to reintroduce a bill into the House of Representatives Friday. That bill, H.R. 589, Emergency Unemployment Compensation Act of 2011, would add another 14 weeks of unemployment benefits to the Tier 1 extension that already exists and allow for those 99ers that qualify to receive benefits retroactively. According to opencongress.org, the number of 99ers increases each week by a staggering 34,000 individuals. According to Calculated Risk, which believes that the number of 99ers are far higher than the official number, the total number of 99ers could increase by as many as 4 million in 2010 alone. That estimation was reached given the massive spike in unemployment filings nearly 2 years ago, which should see a reciprocating spike in the coming months. Considering that the unemployment rate is projected to remain at 9% or higher for the next year, there is little reason to believe that Representative Barbara Lee's concerns for the welfare of the long-term unemployed are not unfounded. However, getting the bill passed will take a Herculean effort that borders on the miraculous. Not one Republican has signed on to support the legislation. At present, 47 representatives have company-sponsored H.R. 589. Donnie Shaw at opencongress.org reported that there are rumored to be at least a dozen more. But the Democrats no longer control the House of Representatives. Getting a bill introduced or, as is the case here, reintroduced is the easy part. Getting it through a hostile chamber of Congress will be nearly impossible. Not that one would not hear lip service platitudes about the unemployed if one were to talk to Republicans about an unemployment extension, but there seems to be little sympathy among the members of the GOP for those who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own during the recession and, for various reasons and usually through no fault of their own, have been unable to find employment. In fact, Republicans blocked, fought, and filibustered against unemployment extensions all 3 times they were up for reauthorization in 2010. The measures are usually passed as a matter of course during hard economic times. But even if some more moderate Republicans were amenable to the idea of passing an extension, most Tea Party Republicans are dead set against them. Some even want to eliminate unemployment extensions altogether. Now let's talk about the background checks. Background check companies admit they blacklist targeted persons from all employment nationwide at the behest of disgruntled former employers. Background check companies operate for profit only from employers. Employers use background check companies daily, and have a close relationship with them. Our government is a big employer and uses and knows background check companies. Today, every employer gets a background check report on every job applicant who nears the final interview. Background check companies and employers communicate on the internet. Thus, it is easy for today's employers to get a report on you. Job applicants are unlawfully never given a copy of the background check report, which was the reason they were not hired. Thus, background check companies distribute smears of job applicants by secret, hidden means. These are the same methods as the Nazis. Yet, worse than Nazis, because the Nazis told you, you were blacklisted. America's corporations and our government do not tell you they are blacklisting you from all employment, nationwide, and you continue to fill out lengthy job applications day after day. Targeted persons are often employees who have filed a valid workers' compensation medical claim against a self-insured employer, or have refused an employer's demand to do something illegal, unsafe, or unethical. Our government knows, but does not care, because the government union running our government today uses the same sinister methods to keep political opponents out of the government employees union. The hostile comments saying, "There are plenty of jobs, and you are just lazy and stupid," are being written by government union employees at their government job, on government computers, without accountability. In a related story, when China goes hungry, the world shakes. The impact of China's drought could have serious effects on global food prices and supplies, writes Keith Bradshaw. A severe drought is threatening the wheat crop in China, the world's largest wheat producer, resulting in shortages of drinking water for people and livestock. China has been essentially self-sufficient in grain for decades, for national security reasons. Any move by China to import large quantities of food in response to the drought could drive international prices even higher than the record levels recently reached. China's grain situation is critical to the rest of the world. If they are forced to go out on the market to procure adequate supplies for their population, it could send huge shockwaves through the world's grain markets, said Robert Zaylor, the Director General of the International Rice Research Institute, in Los Banos, Philippines. But who is looking out for the American people who are unemployed and are hungry? Our government will more than likely support the idea of shipping food to China at the risk of making Americans hungry and paying more at the local supermarkets, creating shortages in the meantime. Americans just hate Americans. Democrats versus Republicans, whites versus non-whites, Christians versus non-Christians, employed versus unemployed, rich versus poor, boss versus worker. All the hate is tearing the country apart. American CEOs gave America's factories and 40 million American jobs to the Communist government of China, combining American technology with slave wages, 72-hour work weeks, not paying any U.S. taxes, and not paying any withholdings such as Social Security and unemployment insurance. In doing so, American CEOs have imposed 20 million permanently unemployed Americans and hundreds of billions of dollars in yearly welfare and prison costs upon American taxpayers. Who can compete with such a plot? There is a gap that is widening between Americans that is alarming. Folks that had decent paying jobs have lost them through no fault of their own. Now people who have kept their jobs say that there are plenty of jobs for the taking, with one caveat: much lower wages, no benefits, and no retirement. Those folks who have been unemployed have been hoping and praying that things will turn in their favor, much to their dismay. So now we have corporations reaping huge profits on the backs of a slimmer workforce that they work longer, because who the hell is going to complain about work in this climate? I'm guessing here, but there has to be at least 18 to 23% under and unemployed people out there. This will seriously affect the future generation of younger people if their parents cannot afford to send them to college. They can barely afford to keep the heat on in their houses. Oh well, the haves continue to move the line because money makes the rules. So much for job creation. CBO director says Obamacare would reduce employment by 800,000 workers. Shocking new IMF report: US dollar needs to be replaced as the world reserve currency. The government exaggerating the terror threats for political purposes. More control over your lives to boast the new world order. Obama looks to strengthen United Nations. Ron says pay the banksters first. My closing thoughts. In a country when we have so much unemployment, the American people are suffering, yet at the same time there are many in government as well as individuals who hate the American unemployed. They are hated so much that they aren't even mentioned as a news emergency on television. For the most part those who are working look down on the unemployed as a bunch of lazy people, and they have the Republicans to thank for that through their spreading of false propaganda to get the American workers to turn against them. Yet the truth is that these unemployed folks want to work, but as you have heard, they are being rejected in getting a job in one way or another by the way they do background checks. They will use any and all excuses not to hire them. So what's the bottom line is that first their job is taken away, second is that without money they lose everything they work so hard for, then left out in the cold to die. Yes, I said die, because if our government had a heart this wouldn't have been an issue. So as far as I can see, many Americans who have a job, have a home, and that's all that matters to them. They'll watch their football games and spend hours on end watching the news about a riot on television or a shooting in Arizona, but could care less. For the people that in this country that are suffering, the rich get all of the attention, but you mention unemployed on television, you're at risk of being cited for caring. Are you so heartless that if tomorrow you woke up and heard the millions of people that are unemployed are now dead and gone, will that make you feel relieved that your precious tax dollars won't be taking care of them anymore? What will it take for you to help these people? You can sit there and say screw them until this crisis hits you, then the story changes for you, doesn't it? Get off your ass and do something. Do you see the riots going on overseas? That too will happen here in this country before too long.